Hello YouTube, Lad Ladderson here. This is my Model A modified build. It's a 1930. If you don't know what a modified is, it's a stripped down version of a Model A hot rod. A lot of the essentials are gone and you're stripped it down to just the body and the frame with a low profile. They're kind of running them across the salt flats. That kind of stripped down, early, kind of traditional look. What you see here is that's part of my Model A cowl. It's a 1930. It's actually soaking in a molasses bath. If you're not familiar with the molasses bath, go ahead and YouTube it or just do a Google search. But if you add 1 part molasses to 9 parts water, it creates a solution that eats rust. It's a slow process. It usually takes between 1 week to 2 weeks. But the molasses will eat away at all the rust on the metal, only leaving clean metal behind. It's completely organic, environmentally friendly. It'll actually leave original paint as long as there's solid metal underneath it. But anywhere that rust has found its way into bare metal, that molasses is going to eat out the rust. So I've been doing this for about a month or two now. I've got a few body panels that will make up the actual body of the modified. So here's the cowl. The left side's already been done, and the right side is submerged inside the molasses. There's also some wheels in there, some suspension parts to Model A frames. What else is in there? And some steering components that I got off of an old Model A axle, or I should say a mid-30s axle. Now, because a modified is stripped down and made of different components, typically you see like a 27 Model T modified. This will be a Model A modified. It's just a later body, but the same kind of concept where it takes a Model A body, typically a roadster. This one's a coupe, but it's going to be cut down to be like a roadster. And this will be the back panel. This is a mid-30s Tudor back. So it's just the rear portion to a Tudor. That'll make up the back of the Model A modified. Here's a passenger side door. Now these have already been dipped in molasses. You'll see that they're rust free. They were quite rusty when I got them. And the molasses ate away the rust, and I hit it with a phosphoric acid that gets into the pores of the metal. It's like a rust inhibitor. It eats away any additional rust and leaves this chalky coating when the part's actually in bare metal. Here's the frame that I acquired for my modified. Originally I wanted to do a 4x2 steel tubing frame made entirely from hand. But I had such a good deal on this Model A frame. It's a bit more traditional. It's a good solid reuse piece of history. So right now I'm just cleaning it up, knocking off the old body mounts. So here's 2 body mounts. And then on this side you heat up, or actually you grind away the rivets that are on the outside of the body mount. And then once the rivet head is gone, you take a drive and you strike the drive through with a hammer, and that pops out the old rivet. So it's already been done on this side. You can see where that one used to be, as well as that one. And these are the rivet heads I'm talking about. So the cowl will utilize this frame. The bolt holes for the cowl will match up to the bolt holes in the frame, so that's no issue. Now to get the lower stance that I want, I'm going to do what they call a kick up or a step up, or even the latest term is called a Z in the frame. So you're just creating you section the frame, you literally cut it, and you move the forward or the rear portion higher than the frame. And depending on how aggressive or low of a look you want, you move it further and further away, and you create the step up, the Z, whatever you want to call it, in the frame. So this one will just be a 4-inch step up in the front, right as the frame rails emerge from the cowl. So also the body will be channeled about 3.5 inches over the frame. I'm going to try and keep the frame horns We'll see if that running a non-dropped axle in the frame horns, see if that'll work. It's a kind of decision I'll have to make further down the line. In the back here, we've got the buggy spring arch. That'll be kicked up as well to accommodate a large buggy spring in the back, and still accommodate the body being very low. So that's my frame. Obviously all those holes will be patched up and filled. Alright, we're in my garage now. Here's my Model A buggy spring. It's a stock buggy spring. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 leaves. That's what goes under the stock suspension of a Model A. And that's what I plan to run. This one's fine. Once I dip it in some molasses and then seal it, it'll be brand new. I'll have to remove some springs to lighten up the suspension in the back so it's more not so stiff of a ride, because those springs are made to support a full Model A, not a stripped down modified version. These are a set of Model A wishbones. They ran them under original Model A's and they met in the back here and were connected and then attached to the bottom of the engine on a Model A. These are called split wishbones. So they split them. Up front they still mount to the I-beam axle on a Model A, but in the rear you weld bungs into them, and the bungs attach to the outside of the frame, and it gives you your triangle link essentially up front on a Model A for better stability for that axle. So further up under the bumper here I had the front spring. I don't know where this guy came from. It came on the car, an older car I had. It was another project, and I replaced it with a different spring. I don't think the width is right. I probably won't wind up using it. I think it's an aftermarket frame. It's not original Ford. It's not something I recognize. And here we have the Model A axle that I plan to run. It has no drop in it. It's a full Model A spring with spindles. Or I'm sorry, Model A axle with spindles. And it's got no arms or any steering attachments on it. Pretty plain. We'll see what happens if I actually use that. I have an axle out back that I don't know what it's off of. It's mid-30s something. It's got a little bit of a drop in it, and it might work better. Here's a bit of cool nostalgia to share with you. Just got my hands on this early flathead motor. It's first generation. I believe they ran them from 32 to 35 or 36. It's the 21 bolts in the head pattern. Not really desirable for hot rodding, but it's a good restoration engine. Got my hands on it, pretty proud of it. And if any of my friends can't use it, I just might turn it into a piece of furniture, like a coffee table or an end table. Beautiful motor. I got my hands on these bomber seats a couple years ago. They're pretty plain Jane bomber seats. They've got some damage to the actual cushions there. They can be reupholstered, and they're actually welded to some old tracks that slide. Pretty comfortable seating position. We'll see if I wind up using these, but I'm pretty sure this is the direction I want to go, as you have to have enough room for the transmission tunnel to go through that low body. So here's the gas tank that came out of that cowl. Very usable, very solid. I've already flushed it out, cleaned it, stripped the rust off of it, and then hit it with Paint On Rust 15. It's POR. It's a rust inhibitor and sealer. That's going to allow me to run fuel inside the Model A like they did originally, rather than having a fuel tank hanging off the back. There's not a lot of places to hide a fuel tank in a modified, so typically they're sitting high on the back side right above the axle. It's not something I want to do. So I'm going to run this guy inside of the dash. Now the actual gauges, like the fuel gauge, fits in here, and it's just it's read by a float. So when the float drops, there's a little meter that drops in the front, reads 0. When the float rises at the top, it reads F for full. And it's got space in here for cutouts. So like the ignition goes here, the amp meter goes here, and there's room for wires to run and then feed to the back. So it's all pretty neat setup. Pretty advanced for 1930 in regards to hiding wires and being compact, and the fuel gauge operating purely by flotation. Pretty cool. And this is just a good example of a clean dash panel. It's the outermost top portion of the dash, so it's essentially what a dashboard was in 1930. Just a clean example I got from a friend, cleaned it up and then put it in some etch primer. That should look real nice in the dash. And then lastly, this is the axle I got my hands on. It's got two radius arms that have already been split, so it was some sort of wishbone in its life. I think it's a mid-30s truck. The axle, you see it has a drop in it. It's about a 2-inch drop compared to that stock Model A. It's got a hefty spring on there, but that's way too big for the front of what I'm building. And it's got these 40s Ford juice brakes. And when I say juice, I mean hydraulic. They've had some modifying done to them. I don't know if they'll be usable. But I'm looking forward to see if I can use that axle. Maybe the radius arms for the rear. And the spindles look pretty clean too. They've got some nice tie rod, steering arms in the back to hold the wheels in alignment with each other. So I'll see how much of that I can reuse for what I'm building. And also with that Model A frame that I showed you earlier came another Model A frame. This one's been heavily modified. It looks like it ran a flathead at some point in its life. It's got some weird angle iron mocked up. Looks like they cut out the front of the cross member and then decided they needed it later on and welded it in a piece. It's got a 3-pedal setup. It's got this funky cross member welded in there. The transmission support looks really good, but it's quite a hack job on the outer pieces. Still a very good usable frame, just not what I'm looking for my modified. So those are the components and the ideas that are going to make up my modified. This is just part 1, or episode 1 of my build, and I hope to show you a lot more progress in the coming months. Again, this is Lad Ladderson. It's been a pleasure showing you my new hot rod that I'm really excited to be building. If you like my channel, go ahead and hit subscribe. If you like this video, go ahead and click like. It'll help others find the same kind of material that you've been looking for. Alright, thanks. Have a great day. Bye.